If there are 40% of students out there that do not have a clue about the colleges that they're going to attend, this is a great opportunity for higher education marketers to be out there and influence their decision.
This is The Application, where higher ed enrollment strategy gets tactical. I'm Allison Tercio, marketer, curious question asker, and your guide through what's next and what's working in higher ed. Join us as we focus on what really matters, connecting with students and parents in more human, personalized ways, and using tools like AI to make that connection scalable and smart. From rethinking your inquiry campaigns to fixing funnel friction, everything we cover is about creating better experiences for students and better results for your team. Whether you lead the team, recruit the students, build the campaigns, or manage the message, you'll walk away from every episode with something you can use right now. Are you ready to get one step closer to your next enrollment win? Let's go. What if I told you that more students trust TikTok than college rankings? That 1 in 5 of them are using AI to search for schools, and that number is expected to grow quickly. Or that over half are ignoring your Google ads altogether. I'm joined by Faton Sopa, co-founder and CEO of Manaferra, the higher ed marketing agency behind the State of College Search 2025 report. His team surveyed over 1,500 recently enrolled students, and the results will absolutely change how you think about recruitment. Welcome to the show, and are you ready for the first question?
Hey, Allison. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I want to start with what's one stat from the report that you didn't see coming? What was surprising?
We had a lot of questions at the beginning of this research, but what we didn't expect to find actually was how big Reddit has become in the college search process. We have been invested a lot on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and other channels, but Reddit was we didn't expect it to be so influential at the college search process. It's not that it was the first stop the student went through, but it became the best place where students search to find comments about other students and to look for authentic stories, what their college life looked like, and what are some struggles that they went through during the college search process, or was the college worth it? So this was mostly occurrent during the shortlist and the decision stage, where students were mostly looking for validation and actually listening from students who went through the same. And what we have experienced running hundreds of Reddit audits for higher education institutions is that the vast majority of institutions do not have a clue about what's happening on Reddit, about their institution. And for some of them, what they are reading on Reddit might not be so good about their brand. So that is one thing that we have identified that higher ed institutions might need to look more up to and participate more into the conversation so they can influence it.
So already we've got one actionable takeaway to go check out what's being said about your institution on Reddit and develop a strategy around that. I think one of the things that's interesting about your report is that you surveyed students across different kinds of segments. You had undergraduates in there, graduates, you had adult learner. What were some of the biggest unifying behaviors you saw regardless of the segment?
One of the clearest takeaway across all segments, whether that be undergrad, grads, or adult learners, was that the journey that they went through looked omnichannel. Regardless of the age, the life stage, or the goals, they were not sticking only to just one source of information. They were piecing together information from multiple sources in form of a mosaic, like Google, social media, communities, YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok. And based on what they found out there, they were forming their own opinions. And actually, we found that more than 87% of students use multiple platforms during their search. So this was among all segments. And when they have done so, deliberately. So it wasn't the case that they were just bouncing from one channel to another channel. The main reason they moved from one channel to another was that single channel could not give them everything they needed and everything they wanted. Some left Google before because they wanted more personal opinions, and some others left colleges because they wanted real talks from Reddit, and some others wanted more fast answers and they want to AI search. So this behavior tells us that students are actually more in control of the process. So we are not relying on what the university is telling them, what the admission team is telling them. They are doing the research themselves, so they are acting kind of generalists, and they are triangulating between what they hear from the college against what they hear from the students, influencers, and from forums, and they are just asking themselves, can I trust this information? And the second thing is that there is no any single platform out there that is enough anymore. We have seen students going from traditional search to TikTok and YouTube, searching for a different type of content. And what is unifying between all these segments is that they are trying to validate, and what they're looking is making sure they are taking the right decision before they apply, or even before they choose to attend a college or not.
It's funny because there's this underlying emotional side to it where we want to be able to consider the college search as very rational a lot of the time. If we have this exact right message about ROI or value, that's going to hit home. But they want to feel like they are making the right decisions, is what you said. And I think that's so interesting. One of the points that you made at EduWeb Summit in your presentation was that 40% of students will embark on their college search without a single institution in mind on their list already. And I thought that was really shocking. Did that part surprise you? And what do you think the implications are for those of us who are working at these institutions?
Yeah, so this is actually what stuck to us, because if there are 40% of students out there that do not have a clue about the colleges that they're going to attend, this is a great opportunity for higher education marketers to be out there and influence their decision. And this has multiple implications for discoverability of colleges, because when students begin that process, they are mostly wide open and they are exploring options out there. So they're searching on Google for best degrees and what is the difference between this program and another program. So it is not the case that they're looking for a specific college. They are looking for certainty. They're looking for different programs, and they are looking what their future would look like. And this openness is a great opportunity for higher ed marketers, and especially for first-gen students. For example, what we have identified is that most of first-gen students, for example, do not have a list to begin with. And that is because they are navigating this process without an inherited brand knowledge. Versus Gen Z undergrads who tend to start with more curiosity and work their way inward. Adult learners, they are more interested into exploring career options. So this 40% out there is an opportunity for higher ed institutions to be visible for them and to make their brand visible to them and to help them answering their questions, help them to solve their concerns as early as possible, because as earlier as you are on the process, the more chances you have to influence the students to put your school on their shortlist. And being on their shortlist, then you have higher chances of actually getting an RFI or getting an applications and ultimately to be chosen at the end of the journey. And from a content perspective, that means that the colleges need to focus less on the branded keywords and more on the intent-driven keywords. Those are the kind of questions that students that are part of that percentage who are starting the college search without a single school in mind have. They are broad, they are influential, and they are open at this stage. And from a strategic standpoint, it means that expanding the idea of what being visible actually is, because that first impression might not be happening on a school homepage anymore. It's happening on Google, it's happening on TikTok, on YouTube, and you have the chance to reach those students at all these stages as early as possible.
It's notable that you're saying we need to help the students versus tell them about our institutions, especially at this stage you're describing. That's quite a mind shift, perhaps, for us to take on in how we're developing content and how we are trying to engage students across these different platforms.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. Foresight Tech was struggling to engage prospects promptly. Staff were overwhelmed and leads were slipping through the cracks. Then they brought in Element 451's Bolt agents. These AI-powered assistants stepped in to answer inquiries, send reminders, schedule visits, and route leads day or night. As a result, prospect to applicant conversion hit 25% within 3 weeks, and enrollment rose 12%. The impact? Counselors focus on high-value conversations, while Bolt agents handled the rest. Fast response, higher yield, happier staff. Support your counselors with 24/7 AI teammates. Try an agent today at element451.com/agents.
Yeah, what is really changing in the industry is that for more than 2 decades, we've been serving content out there on search, on social, and other platforms with only the intention of search. But what we have left aside is discoverability. So now we are entering into an information discovery optimization era, where the information is not only searched for, but is discovered as well. For example, AI search now is changing the search behavior. You might start with a prompt, but then that prompt changes along the time, and then you discover information. And then based on that information that you discover on AI, you might go to traditional search or YouTube or Reddit and try and search more about that thing. So the content that we should produce now needs to be discovered more than searched for.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And clearly that's partially driven by the number of students who are using AI now to help find colleges. I mean, you had 20%. I bet if you did it today, it's even more at this point, right? So what are the implications there? What do we need to understand around how students are going to be engaging with generative AI in their college search process and to discover colleges? And then what do we all need to do about that?
AI is having major implications on the way that students are searching. I mean, not only on the AI, but on traditional search and other search platforms as well. So we as higher ed marketers, we first must understand how this search looks like. What is it they are searching for? What prompts are they using? Is our institution visible when our future students perform those searches on those platforms, especially on AI search? Only recently, we have started to see some platforms or the others that help us understand what are people actually searching on AI search. In this case, the first step that we might need to do as higher ed marketers is to understand what is our visibility on those AI search platforms. And once we understand what is our search visibility out there, and is the information that is being shown there is fresh, is it consistent? And then once we identify those gaps, we need to work backwards with our content team, with our web development team, and with our SEO strategist in order to make sure that AI is able to recognize that that content is there, to understand it, and then include that content in the recommendation that it generates in front of students. And what is different now from the traditional search is that while on traditional search, we had some kind of control over the title and over the description that was showing there, we have less and less control of the content that is generated by AI. So that's one more reason why we need to make sure the content that we have across the entire ecosystem is consistent. Because what's happening is that students, and our report has found that the vast majority of students validate what they are reading on multiple platforms. So if they find something on your website, they're going to validate it on Reddit and TikTok and Instagram. If they find something on AI, chances are they're going to validate that on your website, on college search platforms, on traditional search, and all other search platforms that they are using. AI is changing how students are searching, but there is way more to come that is currently out there.
Yeah, I'm sure if we had this conversation even a couple months from now, it would
Absolutely.
change. It would change. It's sounding to me like we need to not just focus on what we own and what we control, but what we can influence. Yeah. Would that be the strategy that we need to take when it comes to what is being put out there about our institutions on things like AI and even social media or Reddit, right? We need to consider influence, not just control.
For decades, the higher ed marketers have been treating search only as a channel where like people go and search. Actually, it has never been a channel. It has been a behavior. And that behavior, it changes as we go. It changes by the platforms, it changes by the technology. So the way that people discover information today is quite different from what it used to be even 3 years ago. As higher education marketers and as institutions, we must integrate that into our content strategy and our asset strategy, and to make sure that we are producing content that solves problems. We are producing content that fulfills an intent, not only on traditional search like Google, which is what most colleges and universities are currently doing, but answering those questions in all search platforms. And the first step towards that is to audit what your future students are searching for on Instagram, on Reddit, on AI, on Google, because the college search journey is quite fragmental now, and doing SEO only for one platform doesn't work anymore. So our job is to influence that journey, because it's not a single step journey. It's not that the decisions there are just taken by a blog article. Students are now much smarter on the way that they research. They are more generalists now. So they go deeper and deeper. And actually, what we have found is that most students will go beyond page 1 to find something they are looking for. So our job, like considering that this is a long-term game, our job is to be there whenever they search with the answers that fulfills their intent on time. Wait, be patient about that, and have the right mechanism in place to measure the performance of the content, and then iterate. And chances are, and actually the data is telling that the ROI and the performance is much higher from organic channels than from paid channels.
What's the role with brand awareness in this scenario? So we know 40% of the students in your survey, they didn't start out with a college in mind. So do we try to attack this two ways? We're describing one way to attack this, that we're serving up that information and that helpfulness and bringing solutions to students when they're looking for colleges, so that then we appear. We become discoverable during that process. But do we also, you think, need to focus on establishing brand awareness perhaps in other ways and across other channels, so that we become one of the places that they do look for, that they start digging into on Reddit, for instance, or they're asking generative AI about our school specifically? Do we need to tackle this from both sides, do you think?
Absolutely. The strategy that the report suggests is having an omnichannel approach where you do not only work on providing the content and the answers that are not related to your brand. You also need to make sure that you have your brand under control as much as you can, but leaving some of that control out on the platforms that you have less control, like TikTok and Reddit, and making yourself part of the conversation. The more you make yourself part of the conversation where students are talking about your brand, the higher chances you have to influence that narrative. And considering that this is a long-term game and the students take 6 months to 1 year before they decide to attend a specific college, you have this time span to make into their shortlist. And if you make into their shortlist, then we have the higher chances of actually getting that student into your pipeline. So you work both ways. First side, you work on building your brand on all these channels, and then you make sure that your brand is discovered on all these channels. Then on the other side, you build content and you answer the questions that are not related onto your brand, where you are not selling your degree, you're not selling your campus. No matter how much you have invested on your beautiful campus, if those students, those 40% do not find your school on that stage of the journey, chances are that they'll not find and discover.
This is your moment, content marketing. If you've been waiting, it's time for it now. I'm wondering about what winning looks like now, because winning used to look like, what's my traffic to the .edu like, organic and paid from search, right? And then how do those convert to leads? And then how do those convert to applications and enrollments and so on? What does winning look like now?
Higher ed has held into pretty narrow definition of the winning into the SEO and the Google Ads, get to position 1 or get more traffic or even get more leads. And I think it is time to move out from those winnings that are usually vanity metrics into more of a performance SEO. So winning now looks more like being relevant to the questions that students are asking, being consistent, and being credible enough to the students that might be our students in the future. In practical terms, winning now looks like, do we own or non-branded searches? Students are searching with best nursing programs in Midwest or online masters in data analytics. If we are there answering those questions, we have more chances of being in their mind when they're considering their college. The second thing is controlling the narrative in AI search. So this involves ensuring that the public information that we have out there about the programs, about admissions, and student experiences are accessible, are structured, and are summarized by those platforms. Then another thing that we might need, closing the gaps in AI search. The biggest shift now is to understand what the visibility is and try to be found more by future students. And finally, I would make this the most important one, is moving away from vanity metrics into the performance metrics. What do I mean by that is, I think for more than 2 decades, we have focused on the wrong metrics, like leads and applications, rankings and traffic. Those are important, but we need to pay more attention about what is moving the needle, what is having most influence in the pipeline. Yes, you're investing a lot in Google Ads, but how much of your spending is being returned? If you're having thousands of leads per month, that is great, but how much those leads are eating your admission resources before they convert, and how much of those leads applications are converting, and compare that with organic and social and all other acquisition channels. So this is the winning that we need now to consider more than we used to.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that's certain out of this report, it's that if we're still approaching search like we did even a year ago, we've got to rethink it, right? So the students are searching differently. They are trusting different channels. They're deciding differently. And so we've got to be there. We have to meet them where they are. Thank you so much for sort of pulling back the curtain on this new behavior when it comes to search.
Thanks, Alison, for having me.
And where can everyone grab the full report? We'll have it in the show notes, but I'm sure it's on Manaferra's website too, right?
Absolutely. It is on the Manaferra website. It's on the homepage. We have full reports all there, undergrads, grads, adult learners, and how different generations search for college.
Thanks for listening to The Application. This show is a proud member of the Unifying network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Unify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and so much more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.